Colonel Holt was in the thick of the battle, her every move a calculated dance of survival and destruction. She had become a symbol of the human spirit, the embodiment of resilience. The Dominion's heavy artillery couldn't stop her ship, and one by one, she took down their defenses. Focus fire on their main reactor. Holt barked. We take that out, and the rest will fall apart. The human ships concentrated their fire on the Dominion stronghold's power core. As the shots connected, the station's exterior cracked, sparks flying as the energy core destabilized. The final moments were tense, as the entire station seemed to tremble under the weight of the attack. We've got this, Hayes shouted over the comms. One more push. And then, a deafening explosion shook the battlefield. The Dominion stronghold, once a symbol of their might, shattered in a massive fireball. The remnants of the station floated in space, debris spiraling into the void. The Dominion fleet, now leaderless and disoriented, began to retreat. The humans had done the impossible. They had broken the Dominion's hold over the galaxy and destroyed their last stronghold. The war was over. The victory was theirs. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted as news of the victory spread. People had fought and died, but in the end, humanity had emerged victorious. The Dominion, once a terrifying empire, had been defeated by the very species they had underestimated. General Hayes, standing on the balcony of the Earth Command Center, gazed out over the cheering crowds. The battle was over, but the war had left its scars. There were still many losses to mourn, and the future was uncertain. But for the first time in years, humanity could breathe freely. They had won. We did it, Hayes said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. We took our future back. Colonel Holt joined him on the balcony, a smile tugging at her lips. We proved them wrong. We showed the galaxy that humanity never backs down, ever. As they looked out over the planet, they knew that this victory was just the beginning. The galaxy had been forever changed, and humanity had claimed its place among the stars. The Dominion was gone, but new challenges would emerge. Yet, no matter what came next, the humans had proven one thing. They were no longer a species to be underestimated. The galaxy had witnessed their strength, and it would never forget the day when humans fought back and emerged victorious. This is for Earth, Holt muttered to herself as she locked onto another Dominion ship. We will not fall. Across the battlefield, human ships moved in unison, a symphony of precise maneuvers and coordinated strikes. Each attack was calculated, and each movement was executed with the cold, relentless efficiency that had become the hallmark of human warfare. The Dominion, caught off guard by the ferocity of the attack, scrambled to regroup. Cromar's voice rang out over the fleet's comms. Counterattack. Don't let them break through. But it was too late. The humans had already broken through the Dominion's front lines, and their forces were rapidly crumbling. Ships exploded, debris scattered across the battlefield, and the Dominion's once imposing fleet was now in chaos. Keep pressing forward, Hayes commanded from his command center, watching as the Dominion fleet began to disintegrate under the weight of humanity's assault. We can win this. We've come too far to stop now. As the battle raged on, the humans found themselves gaining ground with every passing minute. The Dominion ships were no match for the coordinated assault from the UEDF. It was clear to everyone that the tide had truly turned. Back on Earth, people cheered as they watched the news broadcasts. The victory was far from guaranteed, but for the first time in months, there was hope. Humanity had risen to meet the challenge, and they were determined to see it through. But even as the battle turned in their favor, Hayes knew that this was just one chapter in a much larger war. The Dominion would regroup, and there would be more battles to come. But for now, humanity had taken the upper hand. The humans had struck back, and the galaxy would never be the same. The tide had turned. Humanity, once cornered, now stood at the edge of victory. The Dominion's fleet had been shattered, but they were far from defeated. Despite the initial success of the human forces, Cromar and the remaining Dominion leadership were relentless. They would fight to the last ship, unwilling to yield to the uprising of the species they had once deemed insignificant. The final battle was drawing closer, and every fighter in the UEDF knew that they were walking into the lion's den. The Dominion's forces had pulled back to their last stronghold, a heavily fortified space station near the heart of their territory. It was a place the Dominion had built to last, a symbol of their unyielding power and control over the galaxy. But the humans were ready, and they had a plan that could bring the Dominion to its knees. General Hayes stood at the command center, his eyes focused on the holographic map that displayed the enemy's fortress. He had been in command since the beginning of the war, and the burden of leadership weighed heavily on him. The cost of their victories had been great, and each new day seemed to bring more challenges. But now, with the enemy cornered, it was time to end this. "This is it," Hayes said, his voice resolute. "We take their stronghold and force them to surrender. We've come too far to stop now. For Earth, for our future." Colonel Holt, standing by his side, nodded in agreement. "We'll take it, General. The Dominion won't know what hit them." The humans had learned from their past mistakes. They knew the Dominion's tactics, their weaknesses, and their ruthlessness. But the humans had something the Dominion never expected: the will to fight for something greater than themselves. The fleet assembled, each ship primed for the final assault. In the vast expanse of space, the ships gathered like an unstoppable force, ready to face the Dominion's most formidable defense. As the humans prepared for the final push, their resolve was unwavering. The war had cost them everything: friends, family, and allies. But they had one last chance to secure their future. "This is for the ones we lost," Holt said, staring out at the distant stars. "For Earth, for freedom." The final assault began. The fleet charged toward the Dominion stronghold, a wall of firepower and determination. The Dominion's forces, although vastly outnumbered, fought back with ferocity, throwing everything they had at the human ships. But it was clear that the humans were not to be stopped. The battle was a blur of explosions, lasers, and rapid-fire exchanges. The Dominion ships fired relentlessly, but the humans were too quick, too coordinated. The UEDF's tactical superiority, honed through years of bitter struggle, paid off. The Dominion's defenses began to crumble, their shields weakening under the constant barrage. Holt's voice crackled over the comms as her ship, the Vanguard, surged forward. "We're almost through. Keep pushing. We take this station, and the Dominion is finished." Captain Cromar, unaware of the human strike force, continued to oversee his fleet from the Dominion's pride. The humans were predictable, too predictable, he thought. They had fought fiercely at first, but they couldn't sustain it. Soon, they would give up or be destroyed. But something unexpected happened. A series of strange readings flashed across his command center. "What is this?" Cromar muttered. "What are they doing?" The UEDF strike team had launched their assault. They had broken through the outer defenses and were now inside the flagship, hacking into its systems with deadly precision. The Dominion had expected a direct confrontation, not a surgical strike at the heart of their operations. The UEDF fleet had found their strength, and it wasn't just in their weapons or technology. It was in their sheer determination and relentless will to survive. The tables had turned, but the battle was far from over. The Dominion's fleet, now in disarray, still outnumbered humanity's forces. But with every victory, the humans gained more ground, and with each victory, the Dominion's hold on Earth weakened. As the human ships rallied around Earth, Hayes could feel the weight of the moment. The war had taken its toll, many lives had been lost, and the cost of victory had been high. Yet, humanity had proven something that no one, not even the Dominion, had expected: they would never give up. The command center was abuzz with activity as the UEDF received intel on the status of the Dominion fleet. They had managed to push the enemy back, but there was no time to rest. The Dominion was regrouping, and soon they would strike back with everything they had. "We can't let up," Hayes said as he surveyed the situation. "The Dominion will be coming for us, and they'll be more prepared this time. We need to make the most of this moment." Dr. Wren, still working tirelessly at her station, looked up. "We've disrupted their command structure, but they still have a significant force. If we want to maintain this advantage, we need to strike while they're vulnerable." A grim silence filled the room as everyone understood what needed to be done. The time had come for humanity to take the fight to the Dominion in a way they had never done before. This wasn't just about defense anymore. This was about going on the offensive and pushing the Dominion back for good. "Prepare for an all-out assault," Hayes ordered. "We need to hit them where it hurts, fast and hard." The plan was bold, and it would risk everything, but there was no other choice. Humanity had been pushed to the brink, but now they were ready to reclaim what was theirs. Meanwhile, aboard the Dominion's flagship, Dominion's Pride, Cromar paced back and forth in frustration. He had underestimated the humans, something he would never forgive himself for. The damage done by the humans had been severe, and now they were gaining momentum. The once confident Dominion fleet was starting to show signs of weakness. "They've breached our defenses," Cromar muttered to himself. "This shouldn't have happened." The Dominion had always prided itself on its technological superiority, its ruthlessness, and its ability to crush any resistance. But these humans had proven to be a different kind of adversary. They weren't simply fighting for survival, they were fighting for something more: their home, their people, and their future. "Gather the fleet," Cromar ordered, his voice cold with resolve. "We're going to strike back, and we're going to crush them before they get any further." But deep down, Cromar knew that this wouldn't be an easy task. The humans were unpredictable, and their spirit was something he couldn't break. And that, more than anything, was what worried him. The UEDF fleet launched their offensive at dawn. Humanity had made a pact. If they were to survive, they would have to fight with everything they had, even if it meant risking everything. Their strategy was simple: overwhelm the Dominion with a surprise attack that would catch them off guard. The element of surprise was their greatest weapon. As the fleet left Earth's atmosphere and sailed into the depths of space, the human pilots knew that this was their final chance to win the war. Their home was at stake, and they weren't going to let the Dominion take it without a fight. The strike force, composed of the best, including Colonel Anna Holt, led the charge. Her ship, the Vanguard, was one of the fastest and most agile in the fleet. It darted in and out of the Dominion's defenses, taking down enemy ships one by one. Holt's determination was unyielding. She fought not just for victory, but for the future of every human left on Earth. The plan was risky, but humanity had no other option. They had to take the fight to the heart of the Dominion's power. The UEDF's best fighters and strategists would launch a daring raid into the heart of the Dominion fleet, targeting the command ship that orchestrated the entire invasion. The battle for Earth had reached its tipping point. The Dominion had been confident at first, believing that their overwhelming strength would crush humanity's resolve. But they had underestimated one thing: the tenacity of the human spirit. On Earth, the UEDF had been dealing with wave after wave of Dominion ships, each more powerful than the last. The initial victory, when they had pushed back the first wave of Dominion forces, now seemed like a distant memory. The Dominion regrouped quickly, their massive fleets closing in on Earth, ready for the final push. But humanity had learned to adapt, to evolve, and to fight with a ferocity born of desperation. Commander Hayes knew they couldn't keep up the defense much longer. The Dominion ships were far superior in size and firepower, but the humans had found their strength elsewhere: in unity, ingenuity, and the willingness to sacrifice everything. Hayes was convinced that their key to victory lay not in overpowering the enemy with brute force, but in outsmarting them. "Get the data from the scout ships," Hayes instructed his team, eyes narrowing as he looked at the holographic map of the battlefield. "There's a weakness in their coordination. We can exploit it, but we have to move fast." Dr. Wren's fingers flew over her console as she processed the information. Her brow furrowed as she saw the pattern. The Dominion's fleet, while powerful, was still dependent on a single central hub for its tactical command. If that hub could be destroyed or disabled, the entire fleet would lose its edge. The fight could be turned in humanity's favor. It was a bold move, but it was their best chance. "We have the coordinates of their flagship," Dr. Wren said, turning to Hayes. "It's heavily protected, but if we can get close enough, we might be able to strike the command center directly. That would disrupt their entire fleet." Hayes nodded grimly. "We've got one shot at this. If we don't take it, we're done for. Prepare the strike team." Far from Earth, deep in the cold expanse of space, Captain Cromar stood aboard the Dominion's flagship, the Dominion's pride. He had watched as the humans had fought back valiantly, even when their odds seemed impossible. But it wasn't just their strength that intrigued him. It was their refusal to bow down. The Dominion had conquered worlds far more advanced than Earth, civilizations that had been reduced to dust in a matter of days. But this was different. These humans fought with a passion Cromar had never witnessed before. It was like they had something to prove, not to the Dominion, but to themselves. "Why do they resist?" Cromar asked his lieutenant, his voice cold but curious. The lieutenant, a seasoned officer, looked uneasy. "It's their nature, sir. They don't understand defeat." Cromar turned his gaze to the planet below. "They will learn soon enough," he said, but even as he spoke the words he wondered. Was it pride that kept them fighting, or was it something deeper? On Earth, the countdown to the strike began. The UEDF had managed to gather a small fleet of human ships, equipped with experimental technology designed to penetrate the Dominion's defenses. They were taking a huge risk. This was not a mission they could afford to fail. Hayes sat in the command seat, watching the clock tick down. His mind raced through every possible outcome, but one thing was clear: they had to succeed. "Prepare for launch," he ordered, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "Once we make the jump, there's no going back. We fight until we win or we die trying." His team exchanged tense glances, but no one hesitated. They had trained for this moment. They had nothing left to lose. The strike team, consisting of the bravest and most skilled pilots and engineers, was ready. Their mission was simple: infiltrate the Dominion's flagship, disable their command systems, and give Earth's defenders a fighting chance to reclaim their planet. The team's success could shift the balance of power. "We have one chance at this," General Jackson said as he joined the team in the command center. "Make it count." The moment of truth had arrived. The UEDF fleet surged forward, passing through Earth's outer atmosphere and into the void of space, toward the Dominion flagship. Time seemed to stretch as they approached their target. Every human heart beat faster, every soldier gripped their weapons tightly. The battle was about to intensify, and the fate of Earth rested on their shoulders. The atmosphere on Earth had changed. The once peaceful world was now on high alert. Military forces across the globe prepared for an inevitable conflict, but no one truly knew what kind of war lay ahead. The Dominion's message had been clear: defy us, and you will pay. Commander Hayes and his team knew that they couldn't face the Dominion alone. They were outmatched technologically and strategically. The Dominion's empire spanned galaxies, and their ships were unmatched in power. Even so, humanity had something the Dominion could not predict: unity. Across the globe, humans put aside their differences, realizing that the fight for their freedom was bigger than any one nation or leader. The United Earth Defense Force, UEDF, was formed, bringing together the best minds and the bravest soldiers. People from every corner of Earth answered the call to arms, not out of fear, but because they believed in the core of humanity: to fight for their right to exist on their own terms. In space, the Dominion's fleet hovered in the cold void, its ships waiting patiently for the human response. They had seen humanity's defiance, but they had underestimated the strength of this species. They knew that Earth's decision could lead to massive bloodshed, but they were willing to crush any opposition that didn't fall in line with their rule. Captain Cromar, the Dominion's fleet commander, watched Earth from his flagship. The humans had rejected their offer. This was a mistake, he thought. The Dominion had never lost a war, and Earth would be no exception. But as he looked down at the small blue planet, a fleeting sense of curiosity crossed his mind. He had never encountered a species like this before, one that, despite their limitations, still dared to defy the most powerful empire in the galaxy. "Prepare the fleet," Cromar ordered, his voice cold and emotionless. "We give them one final chance to surrender. If they refuse, we will end this swiftly." Back on Earth, the UEDS command center was a hive of activity. Hayes and his generals sat around a large table, surrounded by maps and holograms. They were well aware that the Dominion's fleet was already preparing to make its move. Earth had mere hours before the battle would begin in full force. "Are we ready?" Hayes asked, his voice steady, but the weight of the moment was evident in his eyes. General Jackson nodded. "We've built our defenses to the best of our ability. But it's not just about technology. We need to fight with everything we've got. This is a war for our future." Dr. Tessa Wren added, "The Dominion is more advanced than us, yes, but we've learned from their methods. We have weapons and strategies they won't expect, but we'll need to be quick and smart. If we give them a chance to organize, we're finished." The clock was ticking. The Earth's defenders were in position, but the first wave of Dominion ships had already entered Earth's solar system. The battle for the planet was about to begin. The first clash came sooner than expected. A group of Dominion warships entered Earth's orbit, launching missiles and energy blasts. But the UEDF was ready. Earth's ships, though smaller, were nimble and equipped with new defense technologies designed to neutralize Dominion weaponry. The battle was chaotic, but humanity's desperation gave them strength. Captain Cromar watched from his flagship as the first skirmish unfolded. His fleet's overwhelming firepower should have torn through the human defenses in minutes, but the humans fought back with an intensity that surprised even him. They didn't retreat. They didn't back down. They were fighting for something beyond victory. They were fighting for survival. "They fight like animals," Cromar muttered. "This will not be a simple conquest." The first wave of Dominion ships was pushed back, but the humans knew this was only the beginning. More ships were on their way, and each would be stronger than the last. The humans had to make their move fast. They had to outsmart the Dominion, or they would be wiped out. Hayes, standing on the command bridge of Earth's flagship, scanned the skies. He could see the distant glimmer of Dominion ships regrouping, preparing for the next attack. But for now, they had held their ground. "We can't win this war by fighting them in open space," Hayes said to his team. "We need to take the fight to them, hit them where they least expect it." General Jackson agreed. "The Dominion is overconfident. They think their firepower is enough to end us. If we show them we're not just playing defense, we might be able to break their will to fight." Dr. Wren nodded thoughtfully. "I've been analyzing their fleet's movements. They rely heavily on their command ships for coordination. If we can disable one of those, we can throw their entire fleet into disarray." "We have to assume they're not giving us an option," Hayes said, rubbing his temples. "This is more than just a simple invitation. It's a demand, and refusing could have devastating consequences." "But we can't just give in," argued Ambassador Naomi Clark, her voice sharp and defiant. "We've spent centuries building this planet, our civilization. If we join them, we're losing everything that makes us human. Our autonomy, our right to decide our future. It'll all be gone." A murmur ran through the room, but Hayes remained silent, staring at the holographic map. His mind was racing. They could refuse, but that could mean war. A war they might not win. Or they could comply. But what would that mean for humanity's future? Would they become just another cog in the Dominion's ruthless machine? What about negotiating? Dr. Wren suggested hesitantly. "Could we open a channel? Try to learn more about their intentions before making a final decision. Time is the one thing we don't have, Hayes responded grimly. They've already made their position clear. They're not waiting for us to figure this out. The message said, the time has come. If we don't respond, they'll take matters into their own hands. As the room fell into silence, a realization dawned on the group. Humanity had been given a glimpse into a future they weren't prepared for. A future where the decisions of a few could alter the course of their existence forever. Meanwhile, far above Earth, the Dominion's fleet continued to hover in the shadows of the solar system. Massive ships, sleek and imposing, sat in orbit, observing. Their commanders were watching every move humanity made, calculating the risks, the possibilities. The Dominion's methods were clear. Their empire was built on the foundation of order. Unquestionable, absolute control. They were an ancient race, powerful beyond measure, and they knew that any species they took in had to be bent to their will. Yet they also knew humanity was different. The Dominion had never encountered a species quite like this before. Humans were unpredictable, courageous, and perhaps most importantly, fiercely independent. They didn't just follow orders, they forged their own path. And that was why the Dominion was interested in them. If humanity joined their empire, it could become a powerful ally or a dangerous adversary. Back on Earth, the debate raged on. What would humanity do? Would they kneel before the Dominion, accepting whatever fate they handed out? Or would they stand their ground, risking everything for their independence? Hours passed, and the world waited. It wasn't just Earth's leaders who were making this decision. Everyone was watching. Governments, citizens, factions, everyone. The whole planet was united in their uncertainty, unsure of what would happen next. And then the decision came. "We've made our choice," Commander Hayes said, standing in front of the assembled leaders. His voice was calm but filled with resolve. "We will not surrender to the Dominion. Humanity will stand on its own terms, or we will fight for the right to do so." A wave of murmurs and exchanged looks spread through the room. Some were relieved, others fearful, but there was no turning back now. The decision had been made. Dr. Wren stepped forward, eyes wide with concern. "Commander, we don't know what we're up against. The Dominion is far more advanced than us. If they decide to retaliate..." "We'll be ready," Hayes interrupted, his gaze unwavering. "We'll do what we've always done, fight for survival, but we will not kneel." The announcement was made to the world. The human race, united under the banner of independence, had rejected the Dominion's offer. The news spread like wildfire, sparking a mixture of fear, anger, and defiance across the globe. Some hailed the decision as a heroic stand for freedom, while others feared the wrath of the Dominion. But humanity was resolute. The choice had been made. The world could only wait for what came next. And as the days passed, the Dominion responded. A new message arrived. This time, there was no question, no pretense. "You have chosen defiance. Prepare for the consequences." The challenge had been laid down. The war for Earth's future had begun. Now, humanity was no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the very soul of their civilization, and no one knew how long they had before the storm would break. One crucial word stood out from the rest in the decoded message. "The Dominion." "The Dominion," Dr. Wren repeated, staring at the data screen, her brow furrowing. "This isn't just a message from one race. It's a call from a collective empire. A coalition of species spread across the galaxy." Commander Hayes was immediately intrigued. An empire, a galactic government of some kind. "Not just any empire," Dr. Wren replied, her voice thick with disbelief. "The Dominion is known to conquer and assimilate other species. It's an authoritarian regime, one with a history of ruthless expansion. If we join them, it means becoming part of their order, whether we like it or not." The room fell silent. The stakes had suddenly become higher than anyone had imagined. To refuse the Dominion would mean standing alone. but joining them could risk Earth's autonomy, turning the planet into nothing more than a pawn in a much larger game. Are we really prepared to take on the Dominion? Hayes asked, looking around the room. What if it's not just an offer to join? What if they are demanding our allegiance, and we don't even have a choice? Back on Earth, the message continued to make waves. People were torn. Some were hopeful, believing this could be the beginning of a new era of cooperation and progress. Others were terrified, wondering if the aliens had sinister motives. Rumors of military preparations and secretive government meetings spread like wildfire. The fear of an impending invasion, or worse, subjugation, was on everyone's mind. But in the midst of this uncertainty, one thing was clear. Humanity was at a crossroads. Their response could change everything. The galaxy was no longer a distant dream. It had come crashing into their reality. And now they had to decide how to navigate the unknown. The signal that had started it all was still being monitored, but no further words had come through. The silence was almost suffocating. The anticipation of what would come next was unbearable. And then, after days of waiting, the message finally returned. This time, the words were short and chilling. The time has come. Will you stand with us, or face the consequences of defiance? The decision was in their hands now. Humanity could either embrace its place in the galaxy, or stand alone, uncertain of the future. As Earth's leaders prepared for the next phase, the galaxy watched in silence, waiting for humanity's answer. What would they choose? Would they bend to the will of the Dominion, or would they fight for their freedom, no matter the cost? The future was in their hands. The message from the Dominion had struck like a thunderbolt. It was brief, cold, and carried an underlying threat that chilled humanity to its core. Will you stand with us, or face the consequences of defiance? Commander Hayes had seen many crises in his time, but none that carried the weight of this one. Earth's leaders were now sitting in a command center deep beneath the surface, locked in a tense debate about how to respond. The room buzzed with nervous energy, filled with the brightest minds in military strategy, diplomacy, and science. But no one had the answers. Not yet. "What are the consequences if we say no?" asked General Jackson, his voice gruff as he surveyed the large holographic map of the galaxy displayed in front of them. "Are they going to launch an all-out invasion?" "We don't know," Dr. Tessa Wren answered, her fingers hovering over the console. "The Dominion has a vast network of species at their command. They could overwhelm us with sheer numbers and technology, but they haven't made any moves yet. They seem to be waiting for something." The words "waiting" hung in the air, thick with tension. Humanity was being watched, evaluated. The Dominion was giving them a choice, but was it really a choice? "You have been chosen. You must join us. The galaxy is changing. Will you stand with us or be left behind?" The message sent shivers down everyone's spine. It was clear. Whatever this was, it wasn't friendly. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had just been thrust into something far bigger than they ever imagined. The leaders of Earth debated what to do next. Was this a trick? Could they trust these mysterious beings? Or was this the beginning of something much darker, something that humanity might not survive? As the days went by, the question on everyone's mind was the same. Who were they, and what did they want with humanity? But one thing was certain. The signal was only the beginning. And as humanity had learned in the past, when something unknown reaches out from the stars, there's always a deeper story waiting to be uncovered. The hidden message had been received, and humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy. But what would that truly mean for them? Only time would tell. As Earth's leaders and scientists grappled with the weight of the alien message, tensions across the planet grew. The revelation that humanity was not alone in the galaxy was both exhilarating and terrifying. No one could have predicted that such a simple signal would lead to so many questions, yet now humanity had an undeniable presence in the cosmic arena. Commander Hayes, leading the Earth Defense Force, was growing anxious. As much as humanity had achieved, No one had ever considered that they might be thrust into the center of an intergalactic power struggle. The message was loud and clear, but the implications were far from understood. The day after the message was received, global leaders met in an emergency summit. Earth's representatives, including military commanders, scientists, and diplomats, gathered in a high-tech underground facility. Their faces were tense, knowing that this meeting could determine humanity's fate. "This is no ordinary invitation," Commander Hayes said, addressing the group. "Whoever sent that signal isn't asking for peace. They're demanding something." The message was clear. We have been chosen. But chosen for what? To join them? Or to fight? Dr. Tessa Wren, who had cracked the initial code of the signal, stood up next, holding a small data pad. "We've analyzed the message further," she said, her voice steady. "What we initially believed to be a warning is much more complicated. The phrase, 'the galaxy is changing,' is not just a metaphor. It's a statement about a galactic shift. A shift in power. They are looking for allies, but not just any allies. They want warriors, a force to stand beside them." A murmur spread through the room, and Hayes could see the fear in the eyes of the leaders. Humanity had fought wars before, but never on a scale like this. Not against beings with technology beyond their comprehension, with motives they still didn't understand. "We must prepare ourselves," Hayes continued, his voice hardening. "There's no telling how long we have until they respond, but we need to be ready for anything. This could lead to war, or it could be an opportunity to join a larger intergalactic alliance. Either way, humanity cannot afford to be passive." As the leaders debated their next move, the message from the alien force had already begun to spread through the public. News outlets around the world picked up the story, and soon, people were glued to their screens, wondering what this meant for the future of humankind. In every corner of Earth, people had only one question on their minds: who were these beings, and why had they reached out to humanity? Hours passed, and still no further communication came from the aliens. The signal had been quiet. Yet, in the deepest chambers of Earth's government, work was already underway. Plans were being drawn up to send a team of humanity's finest diplomats, scientists, and military commanders to the location where the signal had originated. For Earth's leaders, it was clear that waiting was no longer an option. Humanity had to respond, before the galaxy's shifting powers changed the course of history forever. Days later, as the team worked tirelessly to prepare, Dr. Wren uncovered something else hidden within the alien message. There were subtle clues, pieces of information embedded in the transmission, that indicated the true nature of the galactic force behind the message. These weren't just ordinary beings. They were part of something much larger, a network of species spanning entire star systems. In the year 2159, Earth had become a hub of peace and prosperity. Humans had traveled to the far reaches of the solar system, built colonies on distant planets, and forged alliances with alien races. But the peace they enjoyed was fragile. No one knew this better than the leaders of Earth's government, who had to balance diplomacy with caution. They had learned the hard way that not every alien race was as friendly as it seemed. It all started on a quiet, ordinary day. The scientists at the Earth Space Command detected something strange. A signal, faint but unmistakable, coming from the far side of the galaxy. It wasn't the first time they had picked up a signal, but this one was different. It didn't match anything they had seen before. The frequency was unusual, and its pattern didn't align with any known communication methods. It seemed deliberate. The scientists at Earth Space Command immediately went to work. The signal had a coded message buried deep within it, and it took the best minds of humanity's top researchers to begin cracking it. But every attempt to decode the message proved futile. It was like trying to read a language that didn't exist, a puzzle without a solution. For days, the team struggled, but then something unexpected happened. A young scientist, a brilliant but relatively unknown mind named Dr. Tessa Wren, discovered something that changed everything. While reviewing the signal one last time, She noticed a pattern that the others had overlooked. The signal wasn't just random noise. It was a carefully constructed message. At first, Dr. Wren couldn't believe it. It was as if the signal was intentionally designed to be difficult to decipher. Yet there was something undeniably human about it. It was like a fingerprint, a sign that someone, or something, wanted humanity to hear it. She brought the discovery to the team, and they worked around the clock to crack the code. After hours of work, they finally managed to translate the message. The words that appeared on the screen left the room silent. "We are watching. You are not alone." The room was filled with hushed whispers as the meaning began to sink in. The message wasn't just a transmission, it was a warning. Someone, or something, had been watching humanity. The question on everyone's mind was clear: who had sent the message, and why? The signal continued to pulse, as if it were waiting for a response. Humanity had been called upon, but they didn't know by who, or what the implications were. Dr. Wren's heart raced as she scanned the decoded message. The words seemed to echo in her mind. "You are not alone." "Who are they?" a voice from the back of the room asked, breaking the silence. It was Commander Hayes, a seasoned military leader with years of experience dealing with the unknowns of space. He looked at the scientists with a worried expression. This isn't just some random alien race reaching out for a peaceful exchange. There's something more to this. The team worked tirelessly, trying to locate the source of the signal. The Earth Space Command's most advanced telescopes focused on the region from where the message had originated, but it was a part of the galaxy it was nearly impossible to explore. The distance was vast, and the technology needed to reach such a remote location would take decades, maybe even centuries. But that didn't stop humanity. A sense of urgency filled the air, and the leaders of Earth met in secret to discuss what they had just discovered. There was no time to waste. A decision was made to send a response to the mysterious sender. A message was carefully crafted, one that would be simple, but effective. The humans wanted to show that they were willing to listen, to learn, and to communicate. It was humanity's first step into the unknown, and they had no idea what would happen next. The message sent from Earth was clear. "We hear you. Who are you? What do you want?" As soon as the transmission was sent, the room fell silent once again. The waiting began. Would they receive an answer? Would the aliens respond to humanity's call? Weeks passed with no reply. The scientists continued to monitor the signal, watching closely for any change in its pattern. The message had gone out, but the silence that followed was deafening. Dr. Wren began to worry. Had they made a mistake? Had they angered the unknown force by responding at all? Or had they simply not been heard? Then, on a quiet evening, the signal returned. This time, it was different. The message was longer, more complex, and more detailed. It was no longer just a warning. It was a demand.